We were experimenting with psychedelics as much as we were playing music.
It's a philosophy of leaving yourself open to possibility and leaving yourself open to magic.
The acid test experience really formed the band as a group mind.
The Grateful Dead, the band forged during the acid tests of the 1960s that grew to become one of the most popular live acts in American history, is the subject of a new 4-hour film by Academy Award-nominated director Amir Bar-Lev.
There's sex, drugs, rock and roll, but also a kind of a different attitude towards fame and towards the relationship with fans that I think people, whether you like the band or not, are going to find informative and interesting. You know, when I was a teenager, picking from the palette of cultural options out there and, you know, picking from the stuff that MTV wanted to serve me, or exploring the Grateful Dead represented a kind of a high standard of honest music, you know, that it changed my life and my attitude towards music, and I know I'm not alone.
If you weren't in the audience, you were included in the experience.
We should have known that something was coming when there were more people outside the show than there were inside.
I'm a lefty, right? So when I hear that Tucker Carlson and Ann Coulter call themselves the Deadheads, my natural response is to say, no, they don't get it. But that's, I think, wrong. That's the wrong attitude that I have. And if you look at what the Grateful Dead were about, it was a radical inclusivity, and there was no one way to be a Deadhead. Everybody was welcome. Motorcyclists, newbies, gate crashers, psycho right-wingers. I think they're the musical Statue of Liberty, you know, because they invited everybody to participate, not just to watch, to participate.
There was a strong belief that it'd be leaderless.
Who was in charge?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that. There were times when I was in charge, times when Jerry was in charge. A truck that had a blown carburetor, that carburetor was the boss.
I think Jerry was radically anti-authoritarian, and all the guys are in the band. And so, you know, when people began to elect them to be authorities, they had a natural concern and skepticism around that. And I think that's healthy. I wish more people in power were concerned about power and wielding power, you know, and I think that's what gave the Grateful Dead its longevity. It was never about one person or 7 people. It was something more pluralistic. The band had a healthy skepticism around a kind of top-down authoritarian approach to community. The Grateful Dead famously let people tape their music and, you know, keep bootlegs of them for free. And I think, you know, that was part and parcel of an ethos with the Grateful Dead, that, you know, that you trust people. That made us feel like we were participating in something and that we were trustworthy. And, you know, of course, that drew more people to them. It was very American because, you know, you weren't being told what to do. You were being asked to do the right thing and being made responsible for your own actions.
It's not up to us to define the Grateful Dead. It's this living, breathing thing. I think that's one of the parts of its magic. Not defining it is that it becomes everything.
The Grateful Dead had nothing to do with creating the community around them. They just made space for it, you know. They made space by not taking up all the room with themselves and their own egos. You know, that's like so refreshing and missing from popular culture today. They, you know, there's this great line in the film where Jerry says, "What I loved about the acid test is people weren't there to see us." And you think, you know, would you ever hear a rock star say the best thing about those early shows is we weren't the center of attention? It set a tone that, you know, is why they're still here today.